fire! Nope.
Take 7.
It's brownies, it's ice cream, it's meringue, it's a baked Alaska on fire! That was a little warm. Okay. So we're making a baked Alaska today, and we're doing it a little bit different because it's the cookie show. So usually baked Alaska has some sort of kind of like a spice cake or a sponge cake, but we're gonna do ours with a brownie. So first things first, let's make a brownie. Join me at the stove. So we've got some simmering water going already. I'm just gonna pop that little copper bowl on top there. Copper bowl, meat butter. Yes, butter. Let's do another whole stick. Thanks, Land O'Lakes. Now you need some semi-sweet chocolate chips. And to deepen the flavor, we got a little unsweetened chocolate that's been chopped. So we're gonna let this all melt. I'm gonna grab a spatula that's across the kitchen. Yoink. Oh, I'm gonna hold on to this with this because it's hot. All right. Too hot for the hot tub. Hot. While you're doing a double boiler, you wanna keep your water just at a simmer. You don't really need it to totally boil because all you're using is the steam. So as long as your water is still steaming, you're good. It doesn't need to be at a full boil or anything. So we're just gonna keep that on low, let it melt. Let's do our dry ingredients and get back to the baking, huh? AP flour, a little bit of salt. You gotta have some salt. And baking powder. Do. Whisk it up. You know you wanna play that song. Okay, we got these wet ingredients. We have one more round that we need to do. So we've got some sugar, eggs, vanilla, and our special ingredient, instant coffee. I feel like sometimes people are like, Elise, I don't like coffee. Don't put the coffee in there, please. Here's the thing. I really don't think you can taste the coffee in this. I think all it does is amp up the flavor of the chocolate. So we are just we're gonna add the coffee. And if you're like, I really hate it, don't put it in there. It's not gonna affect anything in the recipe, but I think you're really missing out. As your friend, I just want you to know, you should try it. So we got eggs and sugar. We're gonna go ahead and start giving those a little whisk. We do have some baking powder in this recipe, but you're also gonna get a little bit of air by whisking the sugar and the eggs. So get in there, don't be afraid. You can get a little air in there. All right, vanilla. Special ingredient, coffee, which I probably need some more of this morning. So we've got our 3 elements. We have our dry ingredients, and then we have basically 2 kinds of wet ingredients. We have our chocolate mixture, and then we have our eggs. That's a lovely color. It's not, it's fine. We do have to kind of stir this on a frequent basis because you don't want it to, burn. Okay, I think we're ready. Let's combine it. Comes together pretty quickly. So this is our egg and coffee situation. Chocolate. So let's just stir together our chocolate and our eggs and our coffee. Final step, add the flour. I know this seems like, at least that's not enough flour. And you're not wrong to think that, but you are, because you actually don't need that much. The flour is literally just there to kind of help bind the chocolate and the eggs together and the sugar. It's almost like fudge. All right. Sprayed parchment 9-inch cake pan. We're just gonna pour our batter in here. Brownies! Great. This is gonna remain intact to be the base of our baked Alaska. So the next part of this, we're gonna make our ice cream dome that's gonna sit over the top of this, and then we're gonna cut into it slices like you would with a cake or something like that. But this is the crucial bottom layer. This is what offers us some stability. So in the oven for about a half hour. Look at this. Look at that. One-handed. Great. Nailed it. Step 2 for a baked Alaska. Time to make an ice cream dome. Okay, this is for everyone that's like, Elise, I like watching your show, but I don't want to bake. We're about to do something that is not baking and doesn't involve making anything homemade at all because we're using store-bought ice cream. And we're just gonna smush it into this bowl until it forms a dome. Super simps. All right, I am going with pistachio ice cream and strawberry ice cream, and we are gonna layer these in this bowl. Now, size of bowl, very important. This is a 9-inch, the circumference, oh my God, I remembered something from geometry. Okay, the circumference of this bowl is 9 inches, and we're baking our brownie in a 9-inch cake pan, and that's because when this is frozen, it's gonna flip upside down and sit on top of our brownie. So I'm gonna start with 1 pint of Haagen-Dazs pistachio ice cream. What's up, Haagen-Dazs? All right, so we're just gonna scoop this out. I would recommend that you let your ice cream sit in the refrigerator for like maybe a half hour before you get started, because otherwise you're gonna have like super frozen ice cream and you won't be able to actually mold it into anything. You're gonna end up with a bent spoon, and if it's your mama's spoon, she's gonna be mad at you, and I can't help you if you've made that choice yourself, you know? So we're just looking to try to make an even layer in the bottom of this. And we've lined this bowl with plastic wrap so that it doesn't get stuck to the bowl, duh. We're also gonna be able to use this plastic wrap to lift it out of the bowl and place it on top of our brownie crust. That's pretty even and delicious. So we're gonna freeze this for about 15 minutes between each layer. So I'm gonna pop this in the fridge, not the fridge. I'm gonna pop this in the freezer for about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and do the strawberry layer, and then we'll do the final layer of pistachio. Smart cookie, fact of the day. Do you know who loved ice cream? President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, loved ice cream. It's true. So we think that he was probably exposed to ice cream for the first time when he was traveling in France, and then when he came back to the United States, he made that a staple at his dinner parties. So they made a lot of ice cream at Monticello. Now, there is a record of a menu where they talk about ice cream being baked inside of a pastry, which sounds crazy to me. I don't know how you would be able to bake that pastry quick enough, but apparently that's kind of the origin of where Baked Alaska came from, was this method of baking ice cream inside of a pastry. Baked Alaska is like the next step, where instead of a pastry, it's meringue. There's a little American history for you. Thomas Jefferson liked his ice cream. Strawberry layer. Great. Okay, who invented the Baked Alaska? Because Baked Alaska is only called that here in the US. It actually has lots of different names depending on where you go in the world. I know in France they call it omelette norwegian or something like that. But it was sometime in that, check your notes, 1804, in the early 1800s. Supposedly, the inventor of this dish was a man named Count Rumford, who sounds dastardly because he was. He was a spy for the British Army during the Revolutionary War, and he was run out of the US in 1776. And in 1804, when he was back in the UK, he invented this dish. Specifically cake, ice cream, and then the meringue situation that we're gonna get to. Apparently he was experimenting with egg whites and discovered that they were very poor conductors of heat. And that's why this dish works. That's why you can toast the meringue and the ice cream doesn't melt, because it doesn't conduct heat. How much time do we have? 2 minutes on the brownies, 2 minutes. We're going back in the freezer for another 15 minutes. Then we're gonna do our last layer of pistachio. And then we're gonna chill everything. Again, 42 seconds. Very important about brownies. You must get them out of the oven at 30 minutes. I don't care if you're like, I think the center's a little gooey. Yes, it should be. Don't let it go longer than this, because they will burn and then you will have the burnt taste of chocolate and it will be sad and bitter like your tears. Oh yeah. Nice. Boom, done. Look at that beautiful brownie. Here's what I love about doing a brownie layer. This is already level. We're not gonna have to, level this like we would with a cake layer because it's already flat. And anything that eliminates extra steps, I am really in favor of. Oh, and speaking of that, I have a secret for you. If you don't wanna make this homemade and you wanna use a boxed mix, that is fine. I won't tell anyone. It'll be our little secret, okay? So, brownie, or from a box, it's fine. Now this needs to cool. It can stay in its pan and cool. It'll probably take about an hour for it to come to room temp. After that, you can flip it out, wrap it in some plastic wrap, pop it in the fridge, and let it chill overnight because I got news for you. This is a 2-day process. I'm sorry, I've led you into this without giving you all of the details, but this is a 2-day thing because we're gonna need this to chill overnight and that ice cream needs to chill. The whole dome is gonna take like 10 hours. You are gonna chill like the brownie and the ice cream and it's gonna be fine, okay? Great. This is the home stretch, folks. One more layer of delicious pistachio. I was trying to think of flavors. If you don't like pistachio ice cream, that's fine. You can pick other flavors. I was just trying to think of things that I thought would be really tasty with chocolate. I was thinking something kind of nutty and something kind of fruity would go well with the chocolate. So that's how I came up with pistachio. If you wanna do like a matcha green tea, that's fine. You do you, boo. Okay. This one I'm being a little bit more meticulous just because this is the layer that's going to be on top of the brownie. So we really want this to try to get this to be as even as possible so it'll line up. Nom, 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 nom. Now, this is gonna go in the freezer overnight for at least 10 hours, and then we'll come back to it. Yeah, because now this has to cool. Everything has to cool. So just pretend it's been 10 hours. Pretend we all went to bed, we woke up, I put on the same outfit, because that's normal. And then we'll move on. It'll be like the next day, Great. Time for step 3 on your Baked Alaska, the piece de resistance. The reason that this is so fancy, meringue. So in the original recipe, Baked Alaska was truly baked. You would put the meringue kind of uncooked on the top and then pop the whole thing in the oven to get toasted. But I like the texture of meringue when it's already been kind of cooked. So we're gonna pull out our handy dandy double boiler again. I've got 4 egg whites and I'm gonna start whisking now. Once you get those egg whites in, they have to keep moving because as soon as you don't, you're gonna start to get scrambled egg whites, which is not what we want. And to give us a little bit of stability, I'm using some cream of tartar and you really just need a pinch, which is why we don't have this measured out in a cute little bowl. So we've got quick dissolving sugar. It's castor sugar. You can also sometimes find quick dissolve in the sugar aisle or over by coffee. So the whole point of what we're doing right now are just to get our egg whites basically up to about 100 degrees. You're looking for them to be warm to the touch. In fact, if your water has come up to a simmer, you've already put your bowl on there, you can actually turn your burner off and just let the residual heat up that bowl. And you want your sugar to be fully dissolved. That's gonna keep us from having kind of a grainy texture and make sure that this is super smooth. We ready? So they're a little foamy, all of our sugar is dissolved, and we're just gonna pour the whole mixture into our standing mixer. So while these are still warm, go ahead and put your whisk attachment on. Kick it up a notch. I like to start my meringue on a lower speed. I think this gives it a little bit more stability because you're taking more time to get air into those eggs. You can always knock it up a little bit faster once you start to see that those peaks starting to happen and it's starting to thicken up and get really bright white and glossy. You can always take it up a little bit from there, but I think starting at a lower speed gives it a little bit more stability. All right, we're a little foamy now, so I'm gonna take it up. I hope that you are enjoying the recipe so far. Have you had Baked Alaska before? If so, where? Does this seem totally doable? Or does this kind of seem like out of the league, like this is too much? Because I'll tell you, when I was making this at home, I am not joking, I literally almost burnt my house down.
Safety.
Uh-oh. I didn't have the safety features and I didn't really think it through. There is some amazing behind the scene footage, so if you're interested in that, please check it out. Let's check our meringue, shall we? I think we're there. You're looking for stiff peaks. Let's see. Yeah, look at that little guy. He's holding his own, he's doing his thing. So we've got our chilled brownie layer. This has been in the fridge overnight. Let's go get our ice cream. That has also chilled overnight. Frosty! When we lined our bowl, we made sure that there was some extra so that we could actually use this as handles to try to get this ice cream out. I think I'm gonna get a towel and get some hot water and use that to kind of warm the bowl up a little bit so that we can get this out of there because it's a little frozen. Let it go, let it go. Great, so this is just a warm, damp towel. We're just gonna warm this up a little bit. Release. Ha 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 ha! It's done! Yes. You watched me struggle. You might struggle. We're all gonna struggle in our lives, and then it's gonna teach us something, and it's gonna be fine. Okay. Look at that ice cream dome. It's an ice cream dome. All right, time to get your meringue out. Sorry, 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 sorry. You don't want to waste any of it. It's delicious. Okay. So we're just gonna put this on there. Now, luckily this has been freezing for probably 12 hours at this point. So I'm not super worried about my ice cream starting to melt immediately. It's gonna be fine. Smart cookie fact of the day, where does the name Baked Alaska come from? The chef at the Delmonico restaurant in New York decided to make a dessert to celebrate the US's purchase of Alaska from Russia. The first name for this was actually the Florida Alaska cake. His method was to broil the meringue in the oven to get it nice and toasty. So the Florida was the hot part, the Alaska was the cold part, and then somebody was like, that's not a good name. And so he changed it to the Baked Alaska. It seems like a lot of meringue, but you gotta cover every inch, you know? You can't really have any ice cream hanging out. So, as I mentioned before, our Count Rumford, who came up with this recipe, the reason that he thought the egg whites would work are because they're very poor conductors of heat. So essentially, this meringue is insulating the ice cream. It's gonna keep it nice and cold, even when it's toasted. How my swirls looking? Swirl-tastic? All right, if you don't happen to have a handy dandy kitchen torch, you can go old school and put this in the oven, but this is probably the most convenient way to do this. Nice and toasty. All right, serve immediately. Let's cut a slice, let's cut a slice. The great thing about having chilled this ice cream for this long and the brownie for this long, everything's pretty frozen still. Yes. All right, see, we've got super dense brownie, very decadent. The ice cream layers are like perfect, and then super fluffy meringue on top that's toasted and delicious. Yes. Everything is a yes. I hope that you will try this Baked Alaska. I think it's a really fun recipe, and it was pretty delicious, if I do say so myself.